We go racing. Luke Whitehead lights it up. Tariq Adam is going to take the green flag and send them all down to Hill Corner. But here we go. This is the action. We will side by side. A little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a clip of his teammate there. This is through the dipper, and that, I think, is one of the Genesis cars going straight into the wall. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Genesis Esports YouTube channel. We are live once again for another round of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. This week, it's round 5, and we are off to the yeehaw! Good old United States of America. We are off to Watkins Glen, and thank God it's not another week of Paul Ricard. But it did give us some amazing, amazing racing last week out. My name is David Christie, and as always, joining me in the booth, it's a very warm welcome, dragging him away from the AFCON football tonight. Tapelo Merioli. Tapelo, are we winning tonight? That's the main question.
Nigeria just scored a penalty, so we're kind of feeling down.
Well,
but yeah.
It's fine.
We're hoping that
it's
the racing is going to pick us up.
No pressure to any of the drivers that are out there tonight. Right. Anyway, back to what we've got now that we've revealed that Tapelo is feeling absolutely miserable. Kailami is going to be next week. We are off to round 6 and the halfway point in the season. Kota after that. Bathurst, Spa, Brands Hatch, Valencia and Silverstone, and it is going to be a thrilling end to the season. Remember, of course, mirroring the LFM Pro calendar as well. So what we have got in store for you tonight is, of course, a fantastic evening of racing here at Watkins Glen. 3.45 miles, located in the heart of Watkins Glen, New York County in America. It is really one of the staple diets of North American sports car racing. Really is the proper home, along with the likes of Laguna Seca and Lime Rock Park, for North American endurance racing here. And we absolutely love coming here. Tapelo always guarantees lots of real excitement. It's one of those tracks with a lot of overtaking and a lot of high-speed corners as well.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, you've got high-speed corners. You've got corners that kind of pinch you in. The barriers come close to you. So you kind of need to be brave, you know, abuse the curbs, try and eke out as much of track limits as you can, but you still need to be considerate of what's going to happen. And, you know, we've spoken about it this season already. We have such a stacked grid that it's going to be great. And if you see the highlight package coming up, you'll see why so many cars on circuit are a problem. So let us look at the highlights from last week at Paul Ricard, a race we thought would be boring, but it sure as hell gave us a lot to talk about. Here we go.
Philippe Minardo on pole position with Marco Bischoff alongside in second position. On row 2, Marco Schader is alongside. 4 cars down to turn number 1, and we are underway. Fantastic start there from row 2. Marco Schader there. You can see the Honda already up as we go 3 wide down into turn 1. What could possibly go wrong? Philippe Minard takes the pair of them there, but that's a fantastic move by Schader. He's fighting side by side with Marco Bischoff and up into the distance there. That's a move as well. Tariq Adam contact with the two of them, and that is going to send Marco Bischoff straight back into the pack there. But what happened to Schader? He tries to rejoin there, but he's going to have a hard time. Jumps in just beside. That is the Aston Martin right beside him of Valentin Barry.
From P1.
Huge accident!
And we've got contact in the back. Oh, carnage. It was Cody Charity, and let's see.
Oh!
Ooh!
Now that was a bump draft gone wrong from his teammate behind, and well, I'll be honest with you, that's going to be an awkward team debrief at the end of the race. Tapelo, let's have a look then at what happens, and oh my goodness me. And that is an unfortunate moment for the number 25. Boom! Oh, no, that is... And I get the feeling that because we're watching the replay, it's more And there's another one. Wide there from Valentin Barrier. They're all checking up. And again, track limits is going to be a huge thing here as Noah Eder tries to get the up and under on Tariq Adam. A little bit of a hip check there, and that is going to be Tariq Adam on the inside. And you're possibly going to try and see Valentin Barrier up the inside here as well here. This is all getting a little bit physical, and we're less than 4 minutes into the start of the race here. A car off on the inside. That is the 65 of Marco Schade. So that is a bit of an incident that's happened there. I wonder if he's gone deep into the corner, but there goes George Boothby, there goes Valentin Barrier. There's chaos as the 800 and George Boothby can't quite decide where he wants to go here. Quickly jump onto a replay. So this is what happened earlier on. I believe we're on board with Marco Schade to get, oh no, so that is Sakiri Lehtinen. So that's what happened there. It was on the brakes into Curb de Seine, and again, just a massive tank slapper there. Valentin Barrier then down the Mistral straight, side by side. He's got the toe, he's got the run, up the inside. This should be a fairly straightforward move, but remember, George Boothby is a wily character. He knows exactly what he's doing here. Pit stop. So there we go. Shada has completed his pit stop. He's down off the jacks, and this is going to be mega close in as they run down. Oh my goodness me. There we go. You wanted a race. Well, you've definitely got one. He's going to have to get up to speed here. Ow, what the hell just happened there? George Boothby has got a drive-through. Your championship leader has got a drive-through penalty. He was struggling in this race as it was, and that is going to absolutely nuke any chance of a decent performance. Marco Schade now has a drive-through penalty. That's going to be for track limits as well.
As they head into these curves side by side, again, brilliant driving, no contact so far, as we see finally Adam Spansky diving down the inside, and Tariq Adam has to go a bit wide there. So Adam Spansky finally gets the overtake on Tariq Adam, but now it is the McLaren of Bischoff as well getting involved, and it's a lot of carnage now as we see Valentin Barrier sneaking in and getting themselves involved in this three-way battle, making it a four-way battle, David. Very interesting to see how this is panning out as we see some overtakes happening on circuit once again. I'll get back to the point just now as we see the McLaren of Spansky getting the position there on, is it Spansky or is it Bischoff?
That was Spansky. No, that was Spansky.
It's Spansky, wasn't it? Yes, it was.
Yes,
it was. Yes, it was. As I was trying to gather my thoughts there. So a brilliant move again. Straight, and now with clear air, he should make an impression on this group.
And it's exit stage right to Tariq Adam. I think his tyres might have gone in that Ferrari. It was always going to be on the cards. It was going to be a very difficult thing to try and hold defensive line for 10 minutes straight against Valentin Barrier.
It happens, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why I'm saying, to be this dominant and to win the race in the manner that he's about to, it takes a bit of concentration, it takes a lot of skill. Now they're just having fun with that car, celebrating as they cross the finish line. Philip Menard, ladies and gentlemen, is your Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship Season 2 Round 4 winner. As we see Noah Eder and Marco Bischoff crossing the line as well, ladies and gentlemen.
So there we go then, highlights of what we had last time out at Paul Ricard. We're straight into the thick of it, straight into the action here at Watkins Glen with the tail end of qualifying. Philippe Minard with pole position right now, 142.322. Grantis Caracas in second place, just 9/100 to the second behind. George Boothby, 1/10 to the second behind that, and Sakiri Lehtinen just in there as well. That is an insane amount of pace there to Pello. 21 cars within 1 second of your leader. This is going to be an amazing race tonight.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's something that we've kind of seen develop throughout the season so far. You know, we're in round 5, but we've kind of seen the gap in qualifying get smaller and smaller, and the drivers are getting more competitive. So, ooh, is that a Ferrari in the wall? Yes, it was. But yeah, it's very interesting. So many guys are close, and we saw in the race how close these guys can stay in a pack. So this will be very interesting. And how about that? A night race. We haven't had this since Bathurst last season. So I am really excited to see these cars in the darkness. I know it's going to be tricky. I did say a lot of drivers are going to kiss the walls, so we should be expecting a lot of carnage, particularly at turn 2, turn 3, turn 11, and turn 9.
See, I'm more scared of turn 1 down at the 90. That is going to be brutal. Last of the breakers, I think, on that one. But qualifying is done. The checkered flag is out. We're seeing Marco Bischoff here for Sprout Esports, one of the drivers that I think consistently we've had a chat with post-race, meaning that he's been on the podium, but he is done and dusted. That car is not taking any further part in qualifying. Just a couple of cars left to go in the qualifying session for here tonight. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we have got a giveaway going on tonight, thanks to our wonderful sponsors over at Coach Dave Academy, promoting their brand new Coach Dave Delta subscription service. We've got 2 sets of giveaways. We've got for the drivers and we've got for you at home watching. Simply type in Kaizen into the chat and you will get yourself entered to win a 10% discount code. Anyway, let's go and check out the championship, how it stands at the moment. George Boothby on the top step just now is 8 points ahead of Marco Bischoff, who is then 5 points ahead of Noah Ader in 3rd position. Adam Spansky in 4th position. Valentin Barrier in 5th, tied on points with Cody Sherritt. There's Tariq Adam down in 7th, Luke Harrison in 8th, Simone Seminara in 9th, and Sakari Lehtinen in 10th. You can see from top to bottom there, 1st to 10th position, 62 points, and that is very, very easy to obtain over the remaining amount of races that we've got. So George Boothby on top in the championship there, Tapello, but second place on the grid. I think he's immediately going to want to get into that lead here.
Yeah, look, it's not a comfortable lead in terms of the championship. So, of course, Boothby's looking to run away with it, kind of give himself some breathing room as well. Second on the grid, as you've mentioned, so fairly good starting position. So it's all about how he gets that first 3 laps down and see what he can build from there.
Let's go to the grid where the cars are lining up to get started for our race this season. What a race this is going to be here for round 5 at Watkins Glen. And on pole position on row 1, Philippe Minard is alongside your title leader, George Boothby. Second row is Grancis Caracas alongside Sakari Lehtinen. Row 3 is going to be Noah Ader alongside Cody Sherritt. Row 4, Marco Bischoff lines up alongside the Aston Martin of Valentin Barrier. It's the Ferrari of Timo Karppinen in 9th alongside Albin Manson in the Merc. And row 5, row 6 is Tommy Rozier and Luke Addison in the Merc and the Ferrari. Row 7 is going to be Tariq Adam alongside Abe Santima. Row 8 is going to be Skylar Lovrink and Sasha Vassner. Then row 9 is going to be Dennis Vitschork alongside Samir Foch. Row 10 is going to be Marcel Shiro, and then rounding out top 20, Lois Renier. 21st position, Simone Seminara. With 22nd is going to be Noel Hache. Then on row 12 is going to be Ronaldo Bersma alongside Christoph Simon. And then it's Christian Romano on 25th position. 26th is Jonathan Clifford. 27th is David Hill alongside Roland Stein. And then at the back of the grid, Stuart Robinson joining us tonight. Ferraris seem to have a little bit of the upper hand with around about, 5 out of 10 of the top 10 around Ferraris, but make that about 9 out of the top 20 are in Ferraris as well. So that does seem to be the choice. We've got the Honda making its appearance back in the top 5. Sakari Lehtinen behind the wheel of that one, but a couple of McLarens in there as well. So a good mix, but again, it does seem to have a favourite this track.
Yeah, it seems it does, and we're trying to get all the drive excuses out the way. My car wasn't that strong. It was a Ferrari track. I love them. Drivers always have excuses, but yeah, it seems like there's a preference for the Ferrari in this track. See how it performs, but we've seen already this season. It's a 60-minute race. It's an hour, but you need to be focused all the time. Just because you have a car that's agreeing with the circuit doesn't mean you can kind of doze off, because it will catch you out. We've spoken about the barriers that come really close to you. We saw what happened in the previous race at Paul Ricard. Huge incidents. It's nighttime. It's dark. Visibility is going to be a problem. So yeah, you might have a strong car, but this circuit might be giving you other troubles that you have to deal with.
For sure, as the cars make their way off onto the formation lap. And just a quick moment to talk about our sponsors tonight. A huge thank you to Coach Dave Academy for coming on board with their brand new Coach Dave Delta subscription service. You can level up your career as a sim racer, getting real-time feedback, head over to Coach Dave Academy and get your subscription now. But also, as we said, type Kaizen in the chat to get yourself entered into the giveaway. And also a huge thank you to Genisus Risk for being on board with us. Proud suppliers of Immersive Labs. Get yourself sorted out with everything that you need to stay safe in this digital age. But 60 minutes left to go, and I think, talking about keeping safe, some of those drivers could very well take lessons, I think, in keeping themselves safe tonight, because, you know, let's talk about this track itself. 3.5 miles. That inner loop, I think, is going to see more than its fair share of chaos.
Most definitely. And you know what I like about corners like that, you know, the inner loop is you kind of have to take it with instinct instead of planning to take it. And you'll often see drivers kind of go for a double bite at the turn, you know, just trying to get the car in to the apex they want. So it's a very tricky corner to get right, and we've spoken about it. Visibility is a problem. There's a lot of cars on the grid, so you will see some incidents. We've already seen a lot of drivers having a tendency to put their shoulders out, be very aggressive in the overtakes that they take. So it will be interesting to see how they go about it in this race. It's 60 minutes. You know, we have had longer races, but 60 minutes on a track like this with a lot of overtaking points, a lot of tough corners, you need to be focused even if you're defending, because one mistake, you go wide, someone is going to undercut you, go through the inside, and you're losing a position. So it will be very interesting to see how they navigate the first 5-6 laps when they're still bunched up together.
Well, the entirety of the race as well is going to be completely in the dark here at Watkins Glen, 8:30 local time in the server, which means that it is getting very cold and very, very dark indeed. That doesn't stop the amount of virtual spectators turning out trackside, who just sort of stand there watching on. I'd imagine surely they'd have like flashlights or something like that, well, maybe in the next version of the sim we can get scenes that like we see in Monte Carlo with the or Monaco with the rallying, where it's just like flares either side and it's just absolute madness. But yeah, it's very calm here. Most of the light being provided by the cars, both inside and out. You can see that Lumerang sign on the top left of the cars that will update to display both the car's position and the driver that is in there. So you can see there Philippe Minard shown as 001 and MIN for his name tag as well. So it's a really handy way of finding out exactly who is behind the wheel. Of course, there's only one driver that will be behind the wheel of these cars tonight, but given that these cars take part in team championships as well, that's why they're used. The time for yakking is over. 60 minutes here for round 5 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. Season 2 is upon us. Philippe Minard leads George Boothby and the rest of the gang round the final corner here at Watkins Glen, as we have around about 10 seconds before we hit that green flag and we go racing. Maybe less than 10 seconds then, straight down to turn 1 for the first time, and this is down to the 90. What is going to happen then with Philippe Minard? It's all very orderly just now, but behind Grant Skarakis and Sakira Lehtinen trying to fight it out side by side, and this is where they come up the hill on the run, back up that back straight through the S's here. Don't be surprised if we see a little bit of a traffic jam happening here, but for just now, it's pretty much everyone just trying to keep orderly here to Pello, as Cristian Romano, I think we should cut away just to save some dignity and save some hope on that one. Now it looks like we've got our first caller into pit lane. Simone Seminara not taking the start of this race, and Tapello, that's a minor heart failure there.
Yeah, look, it's disappointing. You know, we speak about this. Of course, there's an element of pride, but there's also an element of lost time. These drivers want to be on circuit as much as they can in full race condition. So not being able to take the start of the race for Simone Seminara, it's disappointing. You know, it's practice lost, it's development time lost. You're kind of not sticking true to the Kaizen principle of continuous development. So that's heartbreaking. You know, I've kind of developed an underdog story with Simone Seminara. I spoke about her very confidently last race, and she did impress. So a bit sad this race, but that's racing, it happens back on circuit with the cars that are really fighting to find their place on circuit so far. But so far so good, very clean. We did see one Ferrari kind of busting some moves there in the end, but so far so good.
I'll be honest, I'm a little bit confused. I think our entire roster of drivers might have just been replaced with AI. This is the cleanest opening to a race I think we've had in the entirety of Season 2 so far. Either way, they're all keeping in very prim and proper, given that they've got 58 minutes left to do laps around here at Watkins Glen. But the thing is this is what you need to do. This is what you need to have. It's starting to get a little bit fighty behind. That's Sakira Lehtinen losing another position potentially here to Marco Bischoff. Bischoff makes the move round the back straight there, and that is going to be job done. That Honda really not having the best of times when it comes to straight line speed, but certainly it has earned its position up there in the top 10. The other thing is that the high fuel load of that car might handle very differently to what some of the other cars can do on a high fuel load. That is Skylar Lovrink losing out a position there. I believe that was Dennis Reedshort just making his way up the inside there. Lovrink still trying to hold on and is going to have the inside to the next corner, but ends up deciding to back away from it, but still in contention for that that position here. What surprised me as well, Tapello, at this opening stage of the race, bear in mind we're only on lap 2, is the fact that it's not been anywhere near as aggressive as any of the previous rounds. Now, bear in mind we've still got an hour left to go here, but the drivers seem to be much more cautious tonight.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, right? Because like we've said, we tend to see these drivers try to assert themselves very early in the race, get themselves in position, but you have to wonder as well how much of that is caused by the confidence in the conditions. It is dark, visibility is a problem. It's a circuit that can force you into multiple mistakes as a driver over a single lap. So I think that has to do that plays a major role in the sort of cautious nature that everyone is kind of attending to their race so far. Like you're saying, we still have 56 minutes to go. That will change, especially when now you want to fight for position, you know, the pit stops are getting closer. But so far, I think it is the conditions that are just forcing these drivers to be more cautious, be more considerate, and just being more aware of where they are and where everyone is. Because even kind of the fights for position we're seeing right now, they're not aggressive. They're kind of just picking up the scraps where someone goes a bit wide. They kind of outbreak themselves, but no one is really forcing a move. So that is very interesting to see.
I was also noticing there that Albin Manson, I'm pretty sure that was an unintended contact with Timu Karppinen there for the battle for 9th and 10th position. You also saw Loic Renier just a couple of cars up there losing some time coming through that kink, coming through the loop there, and deciding to drop down a couple of positions. Back there with Timu Karppinen down in 9th position. He's got Cody Sherritt up in front of him, Albin Manson behind him, and it's a proper little train this. You've got 8 cars involved in this, all the way back from Marco Bischoff, Anton Barry is in there, Sakira Lehtinen, Cody Sherritt, Timu Karppinen, Albin Manson, Tommy Rozier, and you've got Tariq Adam involved in that as well. So yet again, it's starting to get a little bit sketchy here. That's Timu Karppinen, decides to try and send it up the inside of the 90. They're going to be rubbing on each other here and going through the S's, but for the most part it is firm, fair. Maybe not that bit. That's a little bit awkward from Timu Karppinen onto the insides of Cody Sherritt there. Sherritt loses a bit of time, so here comes Albin Manson, and also Tommy Rozier trying to make a move up the inside as well here. Gets away with it, but yeah, that was a little bit aggressive there.
Yeah, I was actually about to say it was almost the curse of the commentator. Almost, but very interesting to see. Oh, and we have contact. That's Noel Hatche making contact. Got on the curb. I saw that. Didn't look that settled as they were going in, because I also noticed that Ronaldo Boersma has a 15-second time penalty. But as I was about to commentate, we saw the contact, and Ronaldo Boersma is off circuit again. So he's having a tragic turn of events right now. So far, not having the best start to the race, and that will be you have to wonder, will they even finish the race? They've already got the penalty and they're not looking too good in trying to find themselves again. So race control, race incident between cars 12 and 5 on lap 1, 15-second time penalty to car 5 for causing a collision. So once again, the stewards are full on duty, ladies and gentlemen, and they are doing their jobs, and we have to give them a lot of praise because they have been on top of these incidents and that are coming thick and fast, and they've made sure that the race runs as smoothly as possible with no delayed penalties, and they are doing a stellar job, David.
Yeah, they really are. They're doing a fantastic job behind the scenes here, but I do have to apologise actually. So Simone Seminara obviously did take to the start of the race, but it was that collision with Roland Stein that actually ended up taking them out of the race there. That's why they've got the Ronaldo Boersma. That's why Boersma has got that 15-second time penalty there for that one. So yeah, unfortunate stuff indeed, but we're barely 10 minutes into the race here, but now sort of see some big gaps opening up, especially in front of Valentin Barriers, behind Marco Bischoff there, having a little bit of a moment coming out of the loop here. You can see the front 4 cars. Minar, you've got also up in front there. You've got Butby, Grantis Caracas and Noah Ader up there as well. So watching Christophe Simon as we go to Christian Romano just now. So again, outside of that top 15, you've got a lot of these gaps appearing and a lot of these little battles kind of going into their own little pockets. So this one here, for example, this is Valentin Barrier. You've got Sakina Lettinen, Timu Karppinen, Cody Sherritt, Albin Manson, Tommy Rozier, Tariq Adam in there as well. So, you know, a good 6-7 cars that are all involved in fighting. And again, as the time is getting on and the light is diminishing even more so here, I think a lot of this, Tapello, is the fact that drivers are maybe, you know, just want to stay behind the car in front, maybe want to safety in numbers, perhaps.
Yeah, I think there's an element of safety in numbers, and what drivers tend to do, the really good drivers, understand how to use other cars as reference points around the circuit. Now, again, I say this every time on commentary, it's very difficult to kind of convey what that kind of skill is to someone who hasn't raced, but using another car as reference is kind of using them as your signal where things are clean, things are bad. Just you base your kind of driving on how they react to things in front of you. So in a situation like this, where you don't have the best visibility, sometimes following a driver can actually give you the advantage to see things before they happen. So you use them as your benchmark, as your visual aid of what's coming, what's happening, and then you use them. If they've got the pace, you can stay behind them for a while. It usually starts becoming a problem when they start to lose pace and they're slowing you down. So you need to decide whether to get past or hold position. But for now, so far so good. The guys are using each other very well as reference points, keeping in those trains, but you have to start to wonder how long can they maintain these trains, because for sure someone's going to be feeling confident and they're going to try and go for a move somewhere.
Yeah, overconfidence is a very, very dangerous thing, and is something that we could very well see out in force here tonight. But for the first part of this race, it certainly hasn't shown its head. Strategy is also going to be a factor later on in this race as well. We've got pit stops that the drivers will have to take. The pit stop window will open in around about 10 minutes time. For them to be able to do that, it opens up for around about 20 minutes, and then they can take their pit stop as is mandated in the rules in the championship. But for just now, I think a lot of them might also have their eye on the prize in terms of the championship. Some crucial points on offer for tonight, and for a lot of them in the top 15, I think, given that there is nobody around them that's cutting mad shapes and making mad moves, as the youngsters would say, as we say that, as Cody Sherritt comes alongside into 8th position ahead of Timu Karppinen. Karppinen trying to make a fight back around the outside, but that position is done and dusted and in the books there. Apart from that, there's not anybody that's absolutely charging through the field here. And for the most part, it's all very, very quiet here. That gives a little bit of confidence to the drivers around to think, okay, well, let's just sort of settle down, let's just get whatever points we can out of this, because the last thing you want to do is go charging round the corner and straight to the scene of another accident.
Yeah, that's true. And we saw how close it is in terms of the championship standings. You know, the points difference isn't really that big. All it takes is one swing in a race, a penalty, an incident. You know, it's very easy to lose your advantage in the championship. So because everything is so tight, maybe that's also what's bringing into like our focus, this conservative racing that we're seeing currently on circuit. Everyone is just being cautious. They're doing the math. They're playing the long game. They're thinking about the championship. They're thinking about their position. They're thinking about the points that are on offer. So maybe that's the bit of the lull in a season. You know, we're at around about midway point of the season. So I think drivers are trying to position themselves for the push into the second half of the season.
Yeah, the other thing as well, I'm honestly trying to think here, Tapello, and I can't even remember in season 1 actually seeing a race like this where we're nearly 15 minutes in, and how to describe this? I mean, it's very stagnant in terms of the positions here. You'll maybe have a move every now and again where it's sort of calculated like 4 or 5 turns in advance, but for the most part, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen this entire field of drivers so well behaved before, and it's actually worrying me a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think the myriad of penalties that went out last week kind of has all the drivers shaken a bit. But yeah, you're right. 15 minutes into this race, and we spoke about this, all the overtakes aren't really being forced. It's the gap that someone leaves you down the inside that you're taking, but you're not really forcing them or putting them under immense pressure to try and force them into a mistake to create that. So very interesting kind of race we see so far. And what happens is now I'm already thinking ahead. You know, I'm being a race engineer. If it holds like this until we have the pit window, you have to now question how big of an advantage will a well-timed pit stop be, because we've seen it already this season. The undercut can work brilliantly, but so can the overcut, depending on the race, depending on the circuit, depending on the conditions. So when everything is this tight and everyone is, you know, on their best behavior, a well-timed pit stop might prove crucial in getting that ultimate top 3, top 5, top 10 finish for this race.
Watching Marco Bischoff here just now down in 6th position. So the gaps at the moment start to open up quite considerably. As we said earlier on, there's nobody really sort of making huge charges through the grids at the moment. Again, maybe just waiting for those pit stops to come in, or maybe just wanting to get this race out of the way here. Certainly the previous races, previous tracks, we'd seen, you know, cars diving up the inside and really pushing for position, but we're just not seeing any of that just now. The other thing that it could be is that it could be just waiting for a lull, maybe waiting for later on in the race and saving those tyres towards the ends, you know, trying to make sure that they don't take any longer in the pits than they absolutely have to. Another message from race control: incident between cars 999 and the 5. It's a 5-second penalty for the number 5 for causing a collision. That is another one for Ronaldo Boersma, and that was with with David Hill that involved last time round. So yeah, it's not been a great day there just now, but either way, again, what's getting me is the fact that this now, from 1st to 14th position, make that 20th position separated by 18 seconds out there on track, but everybody looks like they're separated by at least half a second to 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see how it's shaping up so far. I think it's time for us to do the magic, you know, the curse of the commentator. So I'm gonna start it off. We're gonna have a race that doesn't have incidents. It's gonna be procedural. It's Monaco, if you want to call it like that. There will be no crashes. everyone's going to hold in line. But I hear from our producer in my ear that there's a replay coming up. So I think it will be one of the incidents that has been noted by race control so far, David.
Well, let's see
here.
let's
It's
have a
Ronaldo
look.
Bursma.
Oh, that's that incident earlier on. So that was into the chicane, and Nola Ache getting caught up in that as well. And you really, really hate to see it. But the thing is that you always knew that was kind of gonna happen there. The problem with that as well is that car clattering over the curb on the inside at the loop. It always destabilizes the car there. So the car on the outside is always, it's on borrowed time. It's a dead man walking, so to speak. There, it gets hit, and unfortunately, Noel Hache was the main sufferer of his own incident, which is always slightly weird to see, but also kind of just deserts, if that makes sense. Now, the other thing that was noticed as well is our group of 3 cars at the front. Philippe Minard, George Boothby and Grantas Caracas, they're away. They're away now by 3.5 seconds to Noah Ader. I get the feeling, knowing George Boothby from the previous races that we've seen him in, is he just hunting Philippe Minard down and just waiting for later on in the race to potentially pounce here?
Well, I don't know. I hope not, because we need an overtake soon. But it's very interesting because we saw last week as well just how confident Philippe Minard was from driving in front, right? So it is interesting. It is interesting. We want to see how they lead, because we've spoken about George Boothby and how good he is at kind of opening a gap and staying in front. So if Minard is trying to pull a Boothby on Boothby, it puts a lot of pressure on Boothby to try and do something different. So you're right, David. He might be looking for that move, trying to put in pressure, and just to see how well Philippe Minard can keep their nerve in that kind of situation. But we will see something very interesting come up. I think Cody Sherritt, he's come off. Yes, he's come off. That's very interesting. I hope we'll get a replay of that. But we're seeing those mistakes I spoke about, ladies and gentlemen. And coming from drivers who we've seen be fairly confident, isn't it, David? These drivers have been confident. The likes of Cody Sherritt, they've been very confident, minimal mistakes, but not looking so good here tonight.
I'm very, very, very perplexed and confused by that last 20 seconds for Cody Sherritt there, because I thought that he was maybe dealing with some significant damage on the car. The car was limping to the right-hand side there, and I thought maybe he was just kind of looking after it. But then after, hitting his teammate no doubt by accident, but still hitting his teammate, yeah, that is not the best looking. That's going to be a very awkward post debrief for Cody Sherritt. Either way, that car dropping further and further down the order. Don't be surprised if we see Cody dropping out of the top 20 as Grantas Caracas now onto the back of George Boothby. So it really does seem like it is a Porsche way just now. Sasha Vastner has had a huge moment from P11, is at the back of the field now. Let's have a look here what has happened. And this is Timu Karppinen on the outside there. So it's been a move, and that's not great. So Karppinen goes wide. But what has happened later on here? So this is Cody Sherritt. This is where we caught it back on there. But watch this, right? Rejoins, a little bit of contact into the wall, and then decides to go and cut back across into his teammate there. I'm a little bit perplexed there. But anyway, either way, the pit window is now open. So it's a 20-minute pit stop window, which means that drivers can get themselves in. But am I reading this right here, Tapello? Caracas is hassling and hounding George Boothby. This could be a move for position on this back stretch here.
Yeah, it definitely is. And they had a fantastic exit right there. Look, there's no Ferrari team orders here, ladies and gentlemen. It's all out racing. And Grantas Caracas, we saw this in the previous race as well, how confident he is at putting pressure on a driver in front. So maybe that's what they're trying to do to George Boothby. Just try and force them into a mistake, try and force them into going a bit wide, maybe have them kiss the wall. But fantastic racing so far from Genisus Karakis in putting that much pressure on George Boothby.
For sure. Back to this battle then, and they are nose to tail coming through. I believe that is a lap car they've already got behind them, and indeed it is. So George Boothby. In fact, wait a minute. What the hell has just happened? Chapello, that's Philippe Minard behind in third place. George Boothby's now in the lead. Genisus Karakis in second place. My brain just completely froze over there, not realising the significance of that. So what has just happened to Philippe Minard to lose the lead of the lead of the race?
Yeah, you know, I saw it and I thought, it can't be. It didn't look like anything. So maybe we finally saw that crack in the armor that we kind of wanted to see from Philippe Minard and how well they can hold position leading. So we have a replay coming up. Let's see. You see, they had a significant lead in the front, went over the curbs, looked comfortable there, but there you go. There you go. We've spoken about this. It is the kind of circuit that will force you into a mistake, because especially coming into the bus stop, you want to maximize how much you take the curbs, but you also run the risk that they will unsettle the car, and that is exactly what happened to Philippe Minard. You saw him look confident at the start, but as he exited, it just unsettled the car, and he had to kill all his speed to try and gather control of that car once again to avoid a big incident, and that is exactly the opening George Boothby and Genisus Karakis were hoping for.
Yeah, but he's not those two are not getting to run away with it. As Cody Shep's been given a 10-second penalty by race control there after he's been into the pit lane. That's a crushing hit for Cody, so that will cost him at least a couple of positions there, depending on how the remainder of this race pan out here. But Genisus Karakis right onto the back here of George Boothby, putting a little bit of pressure there. But here comes Philippe Minard again, and you've got to say, other than that mistake, Minard had the pace. He was happy being out in front, and I'm not so sure that that George Boothby wants all that pressure on him so early on here. I wouldn't be surprised to see Minard making a move on Karakis if Karakis doesn't, in the next lap, make that move on George Boothby here.
Yeah, most definitely. And look, we spoke about this. You cannot relax. Even if you're leading the race, you always need to be on it, as we see Philippe Minard getting into the pit lane. So I think, but what's interesting there, David, and I think we hit the nail on the head. Yes, Philippe Minard made the mistake, but Genisus Karakis and George Boothby couldn't pull away. So Philippe Minard inherently has good pace. It's just about stringing in that good stint, that consistency, lap after lap after lap. So it will be interesting to see where they come out. Like I said, it will be interesting. We have seen how good a well-timed pit stop can be. So I'll be very interested to see how it all settles down after the pit stops. Who is the massive gainer? Who's the massive loser from this round of pit stops? But so far, Genisus Karakis is still putting a lot of pressure on George Boothby, but George Boothby has kind of made the gap a bit bigger. It was 2/10 of a second, now it's 4/10 of a second, and we still see them driving nose to tail. But so far, George Boothby is looking a bit comfortable, and he seems to have Genisus Karakis' number so far.
Yeah, to keep an eye on though, with just over half an hour left to go here. I do get the feeling that there is quite a bit of pace management going on. Thibaut Carpelin into pit lane. Philippe Minard is out of pit lane just now. He'll be circulating his way. He's coming up through the S's just now, then onto that back stretch with that car that's just been into pit lane. So he will be the leading car that's been in the pits so far, but that's a bit of a hollow title to give to any driver just now, because pretty much anyone that's in front will be able to get there as well. Luke Harrison though is fighting with Tariq Adam just now, and again it seems to have been a dominant performance so far for these Ferraris at the moment, given that they are, that's a little bit close to the wall for Luke Harrison, but given that they are having such a strong run in the race today. So this is now I guess, to pillow that stage of the race where everything is in flux, where we can't really read into anything because of the 5 minutes here. As here comes Grantis Caracas then, side by side round the outside of George Boothby, and again just decides to let that one go there. But the two of them putting under each other under real pressure here, and a couple of unexpected mistakes here. As Boothby still holds on to the lead of the race, but only just. The thing is with these two fighting now, what is the pace difference with them? And are we going to be able to see a jump here from Philippe Minard?
I hope so. Just to spice things up, add a bit of flavor to this race. But yes, that is the risk you run when you're driving so close to someone and you guys are battling, is that within your battles, you slow each other down, opening the opportunity for someone who's just gone into the pit lane to undercut you, because they will have a significant pace advantage over you. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out eventually when George Boothby and Grantis Caracas do take their pit stops, because I'm telling you right now, they are definitely slowing each other down as they put pressure on each other.
So here's the $1 million question then, Sapello. What does your gut say with this three-way race then between Boothby, Caracas and Philippe Minard? What do we think is going to happen here?
The way I'm seeing it, I think Philippe Minard will have them when they take their pit stops, right? Because I'm trying to look. Philippe Minard is running in clear air. No real driver, no real car next to him. So he's kind of got the opportunity to push. But what's happening in front is George Boothby and Grantis Caracas, apart from slowing each other down minimally, but what's going to happen is, I have a feeling they're going to take their pit stops around the same time. At same lap, they're going to dive in following each other. So they won't have a differential between themselves. Let's say race control, an incident between car 69 and 38 on lap 1, 10-second time penalty for car 38 for causing a collision. So that is the penalty for Cody Sharrett. Again, unfortunate, but that's racing. But just to go back to what's happening in front, David, I think if they're really running that similar of a strategy, if they don't create an offset between themselves, i.e. George Boothby and Grantis Caracas, they're actually killing their own race against Philippe Minard. Because I think Philippe Minard diving in early, I think it was prompted by his mistake, but that might actually create a strategic offset for him.
I think you're spot on. They're lapping at the moment 3/10 slower than Philippe Minard just now, so he might have the time to actually get this. As we see a stop go 30, that's a huge penalty there for the 596 car. That is Marcel Schiro, so that is a massive penalty that has been handed out to Marcel just now here as we're watching this battle for 16th, 17th, 18th and 19th position here. You've got Sherritt in there, Timu Karppinen, you've got Tariq Adam and Luke Harrison as well. So it looks like George Boothby has gone in, but crucially Grantis Caracas has stayed out. I think that that is going to be Caracas' only saving grace on this, is that if he stays out, he potentially could try and stop that undercut.
Hopefully. So we do see what I spoke about now. Grantis Caracas is trying to create the offset between him and George Boothby. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. But it will be interesting. Philippe Minard is actually doing pretty consistent times, getting very close to the wall there. I actually thought they'd make contact. But as they go by, George Boothby has just started driving now. It's close, but Philippe Minard is ahead.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Through the S's, he's
Philippe
got
Minard is
him
just
marginal.
ahead.
But that is
just ahead.
Absolutely spot on call there to Pello Merioli. That was absolutely inspired there. Saw that one coming a mile off and called that one to perfection. Takes the position, and that is provisional second place at the moment. We need to keep an eye on where Grantis Caracas is and when that car comes into pit lane for just now. 28 minutes left to go in this 5th round of Season 2 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship here from Watkins Glen into the dark of night. 9 o'clock in game time as we watch the fight between Valentin Barrier and Marco Bischoff. Bischoff trying to arrive round the outside. Surely that's not going to work. And Grantis Caracas then into pit lane. 8 minutes 30 left to go in the pit window here. And all eyes suddenly go down to that pit lane. Has Caracas done enough to pull it out? I'm going to say I don't think he has.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. It's just so difficult to time it right. It's so difficult because you do not know what the other guys are doing. You just hope that your pace was enough, that your pace was consistent enough to give you that gap. But I don't think so. Philip Minnaar is actually pulling away from George Boothby. So Philip Minnaar is having excellent pace as we see. Grantis Caracas is still stationary. I think they're
just
going to
down.
lose
No,
both
it's done.
positions. Yeah.
100% that's done. Yeah, there we go. And Caracas is actually going to drop down into P3 as well now. So, I mean, that's a poor stop, you've got to say, from Caracas in terms of the timing. He came in 2 laps later and somehow was in the pits longer than the 2 cars in front. So, well, back to the drawing board for that one. As Dennis Wheatshork and Samir Foch have still got to pit. Here comes the battle though for P8 and 9 respectively. Valentin Barrier and Marco Bischoff. As Barrier absolutely sends it over the curbs on the inside. Bischoff gets the run through the loop there, but it's not going to be, and he has to back off there.
A very interesting racing we're seeing so far. So 7 minutes to go for the pit window, but I think all the main contenders have kind of found their positions on track. They've taken their pit stops, so they're looking comfortable. Now it's all about pushing for the last 26 minutes. Tariq Adam currently in P14, not having a great race from the heights that we've seen Tariq Adam hit so far this season, but I watched Tariq passionately last season. This is where he starts to pick up. I think we're going to see the best of Tariq coming up in the next 4 or 5 races of the season, David.
I do not disagree with you. I think that it's always hit and miss what we've seen with Tariq. We know the pace and we know the ability that he has behind the wheel, but it just feels like we've not seen the ultimate pace from that car and from that driver. And I do hope that there is still plenty of time left in the season, given that we're waiting to hit the halfway point next week. 2 weeks time. No, it is next week. Is the halfway point is round number 6. So again, I hope there is still time for him to do that, but we'll just have to wait and to see here now. Philippe Minnaar in the lead of the race by 1.1 seconds over George Boothby. Grantis Caracas. Oh, now Dennis Wheatshork into the wall there. There was also another car involved. That was the 8th car that was going very, very slowly. So Wheatshork comes out of pit lane and goes straight into the wall. And that was Stuart Robinson, I think, that he got involved with. Certainly that car was going very, very slowly through the X's at exactly the same point there. And that is not a good look there, and that car looks like it's going to be done from the remainder of the race. So the 25 into pit lane there.
Yeah, called it a night. Unfortunate incident, but yeah, I think that's a rage quit. Haven't seen that in a while, but unfortunately this happens in racing when you're really close to one another, when you're really close to other cars. But you know what? I'm looking at something here, and Philip Minnaar is a second ahead of George Boothby. George Boothby is almost 3 seconds ahead of Grantis Caracas. I think I hear in my ear that we might get a replay coming up. After, as we see Apes and Tima putting pressure on Tariq Adam. So very, 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 very interesting drive here we see. Again, it is getting very tricky for these drivers. You see them kind of kissing the walls, and I did predict this would happen because there are sections of the track where you get really close to the walls. A lot of the drivers are just grazing the wall, David, and that's just it's not doing them any favors, but it's not killing them. As we have the replay finally coming up, I hear in my ear.
Oh no.
Let's see what happened there.
Excuse me?
No, that's just unfortunate. That is yeah. I don't know what to make of that. I really don't know what to make of that.
Did he actually just try to drive through another car as if it didn't exist, or if he could Patrick Swayze his way through that other car? Well, there you go. That's one way to ruin your evening, and potentially the evening of somebody else's as well. Do not be surprised to see if Dennis Featshort gets insult added to injury and gets a penalty given to him for that, because that is, as much as that was a car that was on a lap down, you can't just try and drive your way through it. Alternatively, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's done and it's dusted at this point. Right, George Boothby has now decided to light his tyres up. He's got things going again. That gap that was 1.2 seconds is now 0.6 of a second. So he's halved it, and he is on the charge just now. But there's only 2 minutes 40 in which Samir Foch can actually get into pit lane in that number 2 car. I believe he's going to have to be in this time by. But George Boothby now 0.4 of a second behind our race leader Philippe Minard. Is it going to be a run on this back straight here, or is he going to wait for another 10 minutes left to go here to actually pull the pin on this attack?
I'll tell you what, one thing I know for sure is that in George Boothby's ears, that Jaws theme is playing loud. We've spoken about this Jaws theme, but it is playing loud because such is the gap differential that they made half a second so easily, putting so much pressure. As we see a three-way battle coming here between Cody Sherritt, Karppinen, and Luke Addison. These guys are driving very close to each other, and they've kind of kept in their own group so far this race. So it will be interesting to see how well and for how long they can actually keep in this little group of this. But unfortunately, Cody Sherritt still carrying the 10-second time penalty, and I think that genuinely renders him a non-threat in that group. But it will be interesting to see how he can play a role in ultimately deciding who finishes where in that little subgroup of theirs. But speaking of that, as we go back to the front, Philippe Minard and George Boothby really now within the exhaust of Philippe Minard, just putting so much pressure on Philippe Minard. Philippe Minard kind of keeping calm right now, not making any mistakes, holding their racing line. But you have to understand the pressure that George Boothby is putting on Philippe Minard right now. All it takes is Philippe Minard missing one braking point, unsettling the car over the curbs, and George Boothby is through, David.
And on top of that, George Boothby is a driver that just applies constant pressure on these tracks here. He's not one of these drivers that weaves about or flashes his headlights usually. It's all done on raw pace and precision on the track, which makes it even more daunting, the fact that he's just breathing down your neck and that he's got a track record. Now, what I would say is that the longer that Philippe Minard can hold on here, the longer he's bringing Grantis Caracas into the mix here. Remember, that gap was 3.6 seconds. It's now down to 2.9 seconds and dropping even faster still. We're watching this battle here with Timo Karppinen and Luke Addison. It's the battle for the last of the top 10 positions just now, as that is the pit window closed, and we are down to our final 20 minutes of this race, the 5th round of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship Season 2, live here on the Genisus Esports channel. Dave Christie and Tapelo Meriola bringing you all of the action. You're not going to miss a thing, as that's a slide up the inside there by Timo Karppinen. I didn't think he was going to be able to make that work there. He isn't able to make that work there, but that was full credit for trying that move there.
Yeah, look, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So that was worth an attempt. And we've spoken about this, especially in the start of the race, that what these drivers are doing fairly well in this race tonight is they're not forcing moves, but they're looking for that tiniest hint of opportunity, where the driver in front goes a bit deep, goes a bit wide, and then you can just try and sneak in right there down the inside. So that was worth a move, worth the try. And ultimately, it didn't hamper Karppinen that much because they were still within a reasonable gap. But very interesting as we shift our focus to Sakari Lehtinen here. David, have you been realizing how consistent Valentin Berrier is at keeping and finishing in P5 so far this season?
I have not noticed that actually, but now you've mentioned it, it does seem to be a recurring theme that he is in that in that top 5, the same way that the other person that I noticed is that Noah Eder is almost always in the podium, but I think he's actually going to miss out tonight because I think Grantis Caracas might catch on. But is that, I mean, that's got to be what, 4 out of 5 that Valentin Berrier has been in 5th position?
I think so. I think it's 4 out of the 5 races so far. And what's fairly interesting is we kind of highlighted it at the start of the season because we haven't really been seeing the Aston Martin. We didn't see it at all last season. And it came in this season, we're like, oh, Valentin Berrier, you have our attention. What are you doing with an Aston Martin, a car that we hardly ever see on the grid? But it seemed to be a car that works with their driving style. They've been fairly consistent in that car, and they've been able to consistently finish in the top 5 with that car. So the partnership between Valentin Berrier and that Aston Martin GT3, synergy, perfection, it works.
Insert between cars 8 and 25 on lap 19. It's a 15-second time penalty for the number 8 car. That's Stuart Robertson on Dennis Vietshork there, so they have deemed it to be Stuart's fault on that. Yeah, well, that's they've obviously got access to much more information than we do in terms of onboard telemetry and other cameras and things like that. So, well, there you go. That's a turn up for the books here. Meanwhile, Grantis Caracas has set the fastest lap of the race, and he's only 2.1 seconds now off of this as Teemu Karppinen gets a drive-through penalty, and I can only presume that's been automatically assigned here to Pello for the track limits. So he's gotten through his 3 warnings there, and that is going to take Teemu Karppinen out of that top 10.
Yeah, I think it's time to open my cell phone, send Teemu Karppinen a laptop, retire the car, my friend. Just let's race control, 5-second time penalty for car number 8 for cutting the pit lane. So again, another penalty for car number 8. It's not looking good. I think I should start sending out those emails, David, telling some drivers to hang it up, park the car, go watch the game. These penalties are tragic.
I think the thing with it, though, is the whole point of that is that, given that Stuart is one of our new drivers to the championship, certainly not a driver that I think we've mentioned too much before, we have to kind of go back to the whole Kaizen principle with that, and that, you know, it's about learning, it's about evolving and adapting and kind of experiencing these moments and the sort of negative parts of it, and just brushing them off and getting yourself down and dusted. And you know, to a certain extent, I think it's more about, for them, just being able to kind of realise what they've done and maybe learn from that. The other end of that as well is that mistakes can breed mistakes. You know, frustration can breed frustration. So I think it's kind of balancing that fine line to Pello of that.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. And we've spoken about this. As much as drivers use this championship as practice for the LFM calendar, but there is also the personal development that we've spoken about. The best practice in a race is to be in a race. It's a skill that cannot go unsaid. The best way to learn how to control a race, how to drive in a race, how to be aware of other cars in a race is to be in a live race. You will make the mistake, there will be incidents, but that's how you learn the skill of awareness, precision, keeping pace, and knowing when to push, when to relax. The only way to learn race IQ is to put yourself in a race.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And the thing is that what you learn, even on a bad day, is absolutely off the chart compared to not taking part at all here. And I think that is what all of these drivers do. We hear it when we speak to them in the post-race interviews. The fact that a lot of the drivers are so grateful to have like the opportunity the day before LFM to really put themselves through the ringer and basically use this as a dry run for their race tomorrow. If they weren't to have that opportunity, you know, maybe they wouldn't perform as well as they do on a Thursday, because it's that whole Kaizen principle. You know, you're not learning, you're not refining your performances.
Yeah, most definitely. And a personal anecdote here, I think that's one thing I've always struggled with in you know, sim racing and trying to get really good, was putting in those hours, putting in those laps, putting in the time. And that's what is so good with the Coach David Academy sponsorship for this race, is getting something like that where you can keep track of your performance, keep track of your improvements, slow down. That's what helps you improve in a race. And we see there's a car that went wide. I'm not sure who it is, but I think
that was Abe Santima. I think
it was Abe Santima. Yes, it was.
Yeah, he got hip checked by Samir Fortune. I was away to ask you, Tapelo, what's the number in South Africa for the police? Because I think we need to phone it on Abe Santima's behalf there.
10-111, my friend. 10-111. Yeah, but you know,
now what's happening with Timo Karppinen?
It seems like everything is happening.
Yeah, everything's
like
all happening at
happening
once here. Goodness me. I mean, we've saw Timo getting very, very wide at the S's there. And we're back watching Sakiri Lehtinen then with 12 minutes left to go in the race. Cody Sherritt still watching in that 11th position here. This is just... Yeah, well. Great point, though, to remind everyone in the chat that you can get involved with our viewer giveaway tonight. Type in Kaizen in the YouTube chat, and you will get yourself in the entry for our giveaway tonight for our viewer participation giveaway. We've also got a driver participation draw to be done later on as well. But again, watching this now, here's the question. Because I think we're cooked here with Philip Minnaar and George Boothby, because Boothby's not able to make that move. And look at Caracas. Caracas consistently taking 2, 3, 4 tenths of a second every single lap off of the two cars in front, and now just 9 tenths of a second off of those two in the front.
Yeah, I think Grantis Caracas might be, I don't want to say the most confident, but he seems to be the driver that's kind of finding their pace at this closing stage. 11 minutes to go, but he's still got the potential. He's not far from George Boothby in second, and so is George Boothby close to Philip Minnaar in first. So if Grantis Caracas plays this right and they kind of peak at the right moment with their pace, they could be looking at a very good finish higher up on the podium. It's just about being consistent in this last stint and making an impression on George Boothby and Philip Minnaar, because I think, as we see, George Boothby is getting close to Philip Minnaar, and as we've seen in this race so far, getting that close will force them to slow each other down as Philip Minnaar tries to defend, George Boothby tries to find a way past, and that will pull Grantis Caracas back into this battle for P1. And don't be surprised to see a move. As I was about to say, is there contact? I think there was contact. George Boothby's through. George Boothby is in P1. I saw a bit of contact. Their elbows were out, so that did look like a bit of an aggressive move. We'll see what the stewards think about it later on. But so far, George Boothby has just gotten past Philip Minnaar for the lead of the race, and that battle has brought in Grantis Caracas firmly within this battle for P1 as well.
It's now a three-way fight, and there's no way that Philip Minnaar is going to take that one line down. Remember, Philip was able to take that off of George Boothby in pit lane and hasn't really had to defend too hard for it. But now, what can Boothby do that he's in the lead of this race here? Grantis Caracas now needs to pull that pin as they come through the final couple of corners here. It needs to be now or never for Grantis Caracas. What they can't afford is for George Boothby to streak away. Now, the other thing there is that they have got a car just in front of them, and that is going to be Roland Stein behind the wheel of that. In fact, he just completely moves out the way and says, nope, I don't even want any part of that whatsoever. And there we go, George Boothby moving defensively. Oh, this is going to be a spicy final 10 minutes, you've got to feel.
Yeah, for sure. I think this might be the battle to watch for the next 8 minutes, because these drivers, they've kind of shown themselves to be, I wouldn't say equal, but fairly matched in how they've gone about this race. You know, Philip Menard had the brilliant undercut in the pits, but now we're seeing these drivers kind of match for pace, trying to force the other into a mistake. And I think what will happen is we'll see a bit of desperation, we'll see a bit of aggressiveness in trying to get the overtake from either one of them, to be fair. So it could come from anyone, it could come at any corner. We definitely have to keep our eyes on this battle for what is effectively the win P1 in the race. They're fighting for the positions. It's just a matter of who finishes where on the podium.
Well, that is what we've only got a couple of minutes left to find out. It's all, I mean, apart from that little move there by George Boothby, it's all been very, very prim and proper and above board. We've not really seen any of the chaos and the drama that we were expecting to see here. It's up the inside goes Grandes Caracas. The trigger has been pulled and we are racing, ladies and gentlemen. Caracas has got a sight set on one thing, and that is the lead of this race. George Boothby, target acquired. Let's go. 7.5 minutes in which to fulfill this mission right now, but I get the feeling that that might already be too late. George Boothby now is 9/10 of a second up the road, but again, can Caracas do this? Can Caracas pull in this gap that is there, or is George Boothby kept it in the tank and decided that he has got what it takes right now, as Timu Karppinen is down into P21 just now, fighting off David Hill and trying to get into the top 20, but again, another driver that was on the verge of a top 10 and now into the back and beyond here, Tapelo.
Yeah, most definitely. So how this race has changed for some of these guys around the pit stop period, they found themselves out of position from where they would have liked to be, ideally, you know, finishing in the top 10. But I've also been paying attention to Cody Sherritt, right? We know he has the 10-second time penalty, but how consistent has Cody Sherritt been to still maintain P11? And it's just unfortunate that they have that penalty, which is going to drop them back at the end of this race. But they've shown some brilliant driving to kind of be there or thereabout the top 10. You know, it is a very tricky thing to be there or thereabout in a race, especially when you have a penalty, because that can just change your mindset on how you want to drive the race, how you want to plan it out, and how you want to finish. So to see Cody Sherritt there or thereabout, I'm impressed.
Yeah, it's been an awesome race, and it's been a very strange race, because let's face it, let's be completely honest here, the first half hour was fairly boring. It was fairly non-eventful whatsoever, and then it's suddenly like the past 15 minutes, everybody's decided, okay, let's have some fun now, and now it's all kicking off. Luke Addison taking 9th position there from Noah Eder. So Eder, a driver that we've seen consistently in the past couple of weeks up on that top 3, now dumped down into 10th position. He's got Cody Sherritt hot on his heels just now, and well, Grandes Caracas is taking that gap down by 4/10 of a second to just 5/10 of a second now between the two of them, between him and the race leader. So that could be coming to an head very shortly indeed. Marco Bischoff has got Sakira Lehtinen behind him as well. They're fighting for 4th, 5th and 6th position respectively. And again, remember when this was a fairly quiet race where it was just a train coming up the back stretch here? I don't think we're going to have much more of that remaining over the final 5 minutes. This is everybody now deciding to jostle and hustle for the points, for the positions, and the championship, you know, it's nights like this that decide the championship.
Yeah, most definitely. The closest races are really the ones that can make or break a championship, because in these kind of situations, you make a mistake, you're not only losing one position, you're losing 2-3 positions sometimes. As we saw with Philip Minaya there, you know, one lap they're losing a position to George Boothby, 2 laps later they're losing a position to Grantas Caracas, and as you can see, they just don't have the pace at this stage to keep up with Boothby or Caracas, who are having their own battle, and Caracas is looking really confident. They're finding their pace at the right time of the race, but as is the general saying in motorsports, catching is one thing, but passing is another. And to pass George Boothby, we've already seen this season, it is an insanely difficult thing to do, because George Boothby can switch on, you know, a different level of mentality where they just hold their racing line, they're just good where they need to be, and they can maximize on those small spots in the race. But as we see, Grantas Caracas putting a lot of pressure on George Boothby, and I can tell you now, George Boothby is not a comfortable racer at this point with all the pressure that he's under from Grantas Caracas.
And they're going to have to be careful because they've got a yellow flag they're about to come up to. That's Christophe Simon that has went off a little bit further on. In fact, he is just completely disconnected, so they're not going to have to worry about that car now. But with 3 minutes left to go, we're back watching Cody Sherritt, who's under real pressure here from, well, no, he's not actually. He's got past Noah Eder, so that car is really struggling. The McLaren of Noah Eder really not having a fun time out there at all. So that car is... yeah, do not expect to see that finishing in the top 10 now with 2.5 minutes left to go. It's been another remarkable performance from the Genisus Esports team as we are watching Sakira Lehtinen now in that fight for 4th, 5th and 6th position. Valentine Barry just 2 cars ahead. That is Marco Bischoff. Beautiful on-board shot here, watching all of these cars as your leaders now come in to start what could be the last lap of the race here. We'll get a confirmation on lap times as they come round. No, they're going to have one more lap after this. They're going to have another lap after this one, so this is going to be the penultimate lap that they are starting just now, given that it's a 1:44. So again, coming down this back stretch here, Sakira Lehtinen onto the tail end of Marco Bischoff. Does he make a move here? He's not even close enough to think about that here. But one man who is potentially close enough is Grantas Caracas, right onto the tail end here of George Boothby.
Yeah, look, for sure, Grantas Caracas is giving it their all. Ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake, Grantas Caracas is driving out of their socks, but in response, so is George Boothby to try and keep that P1. And that is what we love to see. We've spoken about the development of these drivers. We've spoken about when they get it right, it just clicks. They start driving, you know, and we've spoken about this, David, so far this season. Just when everything just works for you, you find your pace, you find your rhythm, you finally understand how to maneuver your car around the circuit. And I think that's what we're seeing from Grantas Caracas and George Boothby. They kind of found their pace at that crucial moment in a race, and now it's really my rhythm against your rhythm. Let's see who just has that final millimeter, that last 10th of performance, who can convert this momentum into a race win.
Could this all come down to the final lap then? That's what we're about to find out here at Watkins Glen as we go through the left-hander towards the final corner. This long right-hander. And this is where the stretch begins. This is where the run begins. This is where history is made in Season 2 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. Grantas Caracas chasing down George Boothby, your championship leader, for the win on this race here. And I'll be honest with you, with that going wide, very wide there from Grantas Caracas there, he's still in the toe of George Boothby, but I don't think it's enough. It could be close, but I just do not think it's enough right now. Stranger things have happened. He's gaining. This could actually be perfect here. They're going to be good side by side into the loop then, and that means that Grantas Caracas has the inside line. He brakes to let that car go through there. That means that George Boothby is compromised on the exit there, but I think that's it. I think that's it done, and I think that might just be a race win handed on a silver platter there to Pello to George Boothby. Grantas Caracas will take second, and Philippe Minard will take third position.
What confidence? What confidence is George Boothby showing to head into that inner loop? You know, the bus stop chicane, you have to be so committed. And you have to have extreme confidence that the driver you're going into that corner with will give you the space and they won't do anything. They won't touch you. They'll brake when they should. They'll hold their line. That is confidence in yourself, but that is also confidence in your competition. And that is what we love to see in the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship. That confidence, that learning, that race IQ that these drivers develop week in, week out. We're seeing peak driving, and this is what the championship is all about.
It absolutely is. With just a couple of corners left to go then, George Boothby has been another masterclass. Pulled the trigger when it counted, but it might not be over yet, because here comes Grantis Caracas. It's a drag race to the line, but it's going to be a win for round 5 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship to George Boothby. Grantis Caracas will come across the line in P2. Philippe Minard in 3rd. Valentin Barrier is going to lead this little queue over the line in 4th position. Marco Bischoff in 5th. Sakira Lettinen in 6th position. Tommy Rozier in 7th. It's then going to be Albin Manson in 8th position. Luke Addison is going to finish in 9th position. Now, Cody Sherritt will come across the line in 10th position, but that is going to be a 10-second penalty that will get added to post-race, and that will mean that he finishes around about P14. Noah Eder in 11th, Abe Santiva in 12th, Samir Foch in 13th, Tariq Adam in 14th, and then Loving in 15th position. Sasha Vassner in 16th, Loic Renier in 17th, and then Clifford in 18th, Timu Kirkman in 19th, and Hill in 20th position. Well, there we go. Vote on the chat in YouTube for your driver of the day. Let us know who took that for you. Tapel, your thoughts on that one?
It was a fairly interesting race, and you did say it was a bit boring, but what I liked is these races tend to pick up, the really strategic races. The fun is seeing who's going to make their strategy really work for them. My driver of the day, you have to give it to George Boothby. That's my driver of the day. Just calm, collected, knew when to push, knew when to defend. Race IQ working perfectly there.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, final couple of minutes on the viewer giveaway. So simply type in Kaizen into the chat. Before we lock that down, we give away a couple of codes for Coach Dave Delta. You get 10% off a 3-month subscription. We'll be giving 2 of those vouchers away later on tonight. We'll have some driver interviews, and we'll have driver participation prizes to give out as well. We'll have 1-month subscription to Coach Dave Delta, thanks to our fantastic sponsors at Coach Dave Academy. But Tapello, going to hand things over to you for the interviews tonight.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, most definitely. And once again, George Boothby, sir, well done. Congratulations on another race win.
Thank you very much. That was a very, very difficult, sweaty race. So, yeah, really, really happy with that one.
Look, coming from you, yeah. We had our fingers and toes crossed because we saw the pressure you were under. Just tell us, how do you deal with that level of pressure at that point in a race?
I don't know. I just keep driving, and I feel like when you're the car behind, there's less pressure, right? Because you can just you're in. I mean, there's still pressure, but you're in control, kind of. As soon as you get ahead, oh man, that's when it's okay, I am ahead, but this could change very easily. So, yeah, when we got into the lead there, the last few laps was really stressful. But it's just you just gotta stay calm, focus, try not to overthink it, and just keep hitting your marks. And even if it means you have to brake a little bit early or take it a tiny bit more cautiously, just because you're very nervous and hyper, reactive to everything. Even if you got to take it a little bit easier, better that than going too late on the brakes and missing a corner, hitting a curb wrong. I think we saw that with Philip in the first stint. He hit a curb wrong in the bus stop. It's just so easily done. So yeah, just gotta. I don't know. I wish I could make myself less nervous, but you just gotta deal with it as best you can, basically.
No, and I love that you say that, because what you're showing is as drivers, you guys are so aware of what's happening on circuit. You're not only driving your car, but it's like you're driving all the cars around you. And I've just got something nice to tell you. You have been voted our driver of the day by an overwhelming majority.
Oh,
so
hey.
congratulations. What does that do for your confidence to see that your skill is not only getting you wins, but it's also getting you admiration from the guys watching at home?
I mean, it's awesome because, you know, it's like every race I try my hardest. I just do what I can, you know, and, you know, the streams, you know, are always there supporting me and like chatting away. So, you know, sometimes making jokes and stuff, but it, you know, it's in banter, but it's all in good fun. And, yeah, it's good to know that, you know, it's not unnoticed and people are enjoying it. So yeah, it's nice.
Well, fantastic. Once again, George, congratulations. Fantastic driving. You extended your lead at the top of the championship. Another great week. Hope to see you do it again next week.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Ladies, and that was George Boothby, the winner of our race. Fantastic driving, keeping himself composed and doing very well. But P2 in this race, Grantis Caracas. Sir, congratulations. Tell us, how was that race for you?
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, the race was yeah, very intense, I should say. Yeah, obviously qualifying third behind these fast guys. I know I was pretty happy with the quali, so you know, if I have the pace in the race, you know, I can maybe fight for the win. And yeah, it was absolutely amazing fight. Didn't expect that at all. Like, I was pushing like so hard in the last turn because my pistol was really bad, so I knew I have to make that time up again. And I knew that guys will fight for P1, so you know, I still have chances. And yeah, I kept on driving, pushing really hard, but unfortunately it wasn't enough at the end. But yeah, still pretty happy with the result.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You made us heart and mouth moments seeing you pushing that hard. Can you tell us, you know, this is our first night race of the season. How does that change in visibility affect you as a driver?
Yeah, obviously it can be a bit harder to see. Obviously, it's better to drive in the day. Obviously, you see a bit more of the track, what's happening in front of you, maybe. But actually, like, driving in the night is quite fun sometimes, especially when you're like, you know, driving really fast. I don't know, obviously it's a bit harder to fight against people in the night, but yes, I think it's still pretty fun.
No, fantastic. And that's another podium for you, Grantis. Are you confident heading into next week at Kyalami?
We'll see. I had a bit of practice there with the Ferrari, so hopefully if I put a bit more practice, then maybe I can fight for podiums and wins again. Hopefully.
Well, congratulations. That's the ethos of the Kaizen Championship. Congratulations on a fantastic race. P2 once again on the podium. Thank you so much for tonight.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
And ladies and gentlemen, these drivers, I say it every week, they're so humble. Philip, just unfortunate for you. That one mistake counting against you after such a brilliant drive. How does that feel for you?
I don't know if any word or phrase can really cover how sweaty I am right now, but I guess that answers the question, and that was thoroughly enjoyable. Obviously the mistake, you know, I'm still kicking myself for that mistake. Just a bit too early on the power and just clipped the grass and almost died. Somehow caught it, so I can't complain, to be honest.
Hey, look. You know, they say in aviation, any landing you can walk away from is a good landing. I think they say any moment like that you're driving away from is a good moment indeed.
Yeah, exactly. I had a bit of brown pants there, because I know it's pretty rare to catch a bounce like that in a car. So I honestly thought that was race over for me, but yeah, that completely mixed up the strategy for me. Like, I instantly undeafened that. I asked Jack, my teammate, you know, how much fuel I need for this, and how much fuel is George on, and it was such a sweaty race. I mean, that was such a fun race. GGs to George especially, and Grantis for that insane pace.
Yeah, look, that was fantastic driving from all of you guys, actually. But tell me, Philip, you seem to be on the up, actually. Despite this mistake, you're finishing on the podium, you're looking confident. Should we expect something from you next week in Kyalami?
I don't want to speak for myself, but I'm hoping I get a good result in Kalami. I mean, it's also another track where I have a lot of seat time, and it's home track, so I've got a bit of an advantage there. So, but yeah, it depends on the custom bulb, obviously. It seems pretty good for Kalami next week, so looking forward to that. But we'll see how it goes.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, I'll definitely be looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Philip. P3 on a fantastic Watkins Glen racing circuit. Thank you so much. Well done.
Cheers, guys.
There we go then, Philip Minar from third place. Huge thank you to Pello for all of those interviews. Those were absolutely awesome. It felt nice to get a little bit of a break here tonight. So very, very happy with that. One final announcement then for our viewers at home to get involved in the giveaway. Type in Kaizen in the YouTube chat. We'll keep the entries open for another minute or so while we do the driver participation giveaways as well. We'll bring up the big magic wheel and we'll get everybody involved in that one. So hit the button and let's go. So this is for a 1-month subscription to Coach Dave Delta service where you get live feedback on your driving ability, and that is a very warm congratulations to Loverink, who gets themselves a month's subscription. So Skylar Loverink wins our first one. Let's hit the button again and see who wins. No way. I was going to say it's Teemu Karppinen, who I think could do with it after being used as a punching bag tonight. So congratulations to Skylar Loverink and to Teemu Karppinen for winning those 1-month vouchers to Coach Dave Academy's Coach Dave Delta service. So to Pello, again, with the Coach Dave Delta 1-month subscriptions there, it just adds, it's a nice little bonus add-on to what is a great night of racing.
Yeah, most definitely. You did really well. You're confident. You're on a high. You drove your best, and then you still win a prize on top of that. I'd be the happiest racer in the world. I'll tell you now. And we've spoken about this. It really does help your development to be able to track in real time where you're improving, where you can improve, and just look at every facet of racing and your strengths and weaknesses. That's how you develop. And use that service, you might see yourself finishing on the podium and having these interviews with us weekly.
Well, while we talk about that, let's go and check out our viewer participation prize. So we've got a couple of names up there. So let's spin the wheel and give away a 10% voucher for a 3-month subscription to someone. And it is Baku. Oh, it's Roland Stein. Well, that's a bit cheeky. So Roland Stein getting a little second entry there, so that's a 10% voucher to them. So let's hit the button again and see where we end up this time. I believe the codes can't be used concurrently, so it looks like Spaku 325. So congratulations, Spaku, and to Roland for those 10% vouchers. We'll get them off to you as soon as we possibly can. So yeah, there we go. Awesome stuff. Right, well, there we go. That is everything for us here at Watkins Glen tonight, ladies and gentlemen. My name has been David Christie. Joining me in the booth has been Tapelo Merioli. Tapelo, we're off to South Africa next week. How could we possibly not have this as the amazing halfway point? Kyalami, our homeland. I am an inaugural South African now. What can we expect at Kyalami?
Well, I think it is a 90-minute race, so we can expect a lot of action. We've seen how these guys are pushing each other to drive to their utmost limits. They're really performing really well, so be ready for a competitive race. A lot of brilliant driving to come, I can assure you.
Excellent stuff. Well, listen, we will be here same time next week for a 90-minute race. A huge thank you to our proud partners at Coach Dave Academy for sponsoring us, and a huge thank you as always to our title sponsor, Genisus Risk, proud suppliers of immersive labs, keeping you safe in this scary digital age. Genisus Risk. We'll be back at the same time next week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you soon. We go racing. Luke Whitehead lights it up. Tariq Adam is going to take the green flag and send them all down to Hill Corner. But here we go. This is the action. We will side by side. A little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a clip of his teammate there. This is through the dipper, and that, I think, is one of the Genesis cars going straight into the wall